This session is about the future of digital marketing. But admit it, that sounds pretty much like a pleonasm. I mean, is there any other kind? And insofar that marketing is not digital, it is a precursor to digital marketing. And the thing with the future of digital marketing, or any other kind of marketing for that matter, is that it is yours to determine. So whether that will be a pleasant future or a gloomy one will largely depend on the choices you make. But don't worry, after this session you will perfectly know what your options are. My name is Jan Algoed. I have been working in advertising for over 36 years now. And I have chosen for digital communication from the moment the internet was available in Belgium. I have been working for several agencies, 15 years for BBDO, and then subsequently a couple of years for Only Humans, Havas, Dallas. Today I am self-employed and my little company is called No More Noise. Nobody knows anything. That is what Mark Randolph, the co-founder of Netflix, says. And maybe you know or you don't know that Netflix is as much a data-driven company as it is a content-driven company. That means that for Netflix, data is equally important as the content itself. That is because they don't want you to spend time watching something that turns out not to be to your liking. Why? Well, that's when you cancel your subscription. And obviously, Netflix doesn't want that to happen. So, if the co-founder of Netflix, the data-driven company, makes this statement, I sure as hell am not capable of telling you what the future of marketing will be. The thing is, you decide what the future of marketing will be. It will all depend on the choices you make. So, depending on the choices you will be making, there may be different futures of marketing for you in store. But one thing I can tell you, there is not that much choice. And the marketing future you will be stepping into will depend on a couple of answers you give. Do you want to win or do you want to matter? Because depending on your answer to that question, you will either start or join a competition-driven company or a story-driven company. But before talking about the future, what is marketing like today? These are pretty important men in advertising land. Mark Pritchard, Chief Brand Officer of Procter & Gamble, the world's largest advertiser. Keith Weed, the former Chief Marketing Officer of Unilever. And Bob Hoffman, commonly known as the Ad Contrarian. I am well aware of the fact that these are all men, but Unilever finally appointed a woman, Connie Brahms, as successor of Keith Weed. As you know, advertising, marketing, very conservative world. Still very much so in the management department. Anyway, this is what Mark says. Ads are often irrelevant and sometimes just silly, ridiculous, or stupid. And this is what Keith says. Advertising without trust is just noise, implying that there's a lot of noise out there. And then finally, Bob. The past decade, the ad business has been a shit show. And then I got this email a couple of weeks ago from Campaign, which is an online trade magazine. And it said, 96% of people ignore what we, the advertising agencies, do. 92% find ads annoying. 72% would rather pay not to see ads. So with all the tools and platforms that are available today that allow for a personalized approach, why would Mark, Keith, Bob and Simon say things like that? Well, it's probably because a lot of advertisers and advertising agencies believe that they can sell shit with tactics, that they can growth hack their way to your heart. This is the problem, that we're all far too focused on trying to find quick and easy formulas for success, ways to hack the system and build an audience instantly. Corporate greed, or just plain greed, leads to a short-term focus on tactics. But here's the thing, you cannot hack your way to trust. You cannot hack your way to respect. You cannot hack your way to love, whether that be brand love or any other kind. So, who's responsible for the shit show of the last decade? It's all the competition-driven companies out there. But what exactly is a competition-driven company? It's the kind of company that thinks everything is a soccer game, a finite game, a game that only lasts for a short period of time. So they do whatever it takes to make a profit. They make every move in the game in order to win. They do not care about anything else. Whatever is not done in the interest of winning the game is not part of the game. And what they do is at the expense of everyone and everything. For instance, they think like this: if it requires us to cut down a primeval forest to make a profit, we do not hesitate. That is how competition-driven companies reason. And one of those companies, in my view, is Google. Do no evil? My ass. Every time you do a search, the question is, who is searching who? One could argue that you don't care because you have nothing to hide, but the thing is, companies like Google and Facebook have everything to hide. And they won't tell you. They won't tell you what information they collect about you and what they do with that information. They bypass your awareness, because if you were aware, you might object and start to struggle. And that might yield friction. And friction is not convenient for them, because friction comes in the way of earning loads of money. They feed their algorithms with your most private information, so they can start predicting your behavior and sell more certainty to advertisers. This is Nest, a smart thermostat. It is owned by Google. It measures all kinds of things. But what they forgot to mention, and what is totally absent in the tech specs, is the fact that it also has a built-in microphone. Why would a smart thermostat need a microphone? And when confronted, Google called it an error, like in, oops, somebody put it in there by mistake. This approach to digital marketing could take a very dystopian dive, because why would a sincere company run by honest people do a thing like that? Unless they were a competition-driven company that ruthlessly puts profit over everyone and everything else. So what they do is at the expense of everyone and everything. If you value your private space where you are not observed, you might think twice about purchasing Nest, Ring, which is a smart doorbell, or speakers equipped with Alexa. There are 1,000 other companies spying on you. Ford, for instance, has the ambition to become the Facebook of the roads. Their cars have cameras built in which record and send footage without you knowing. Amazon would like not only to deliver packages by drones, but capture images while doing so. If you want to know more about this, then read The Age of Surveillance Capitalism by Shoshana Zuboff, a Harvard professor. You can also find her on YouTube if you'd rather watch. And then there's this other small competition-driven company. During Davos 2020, the World Economic Forum annual meeting in Davos, Bia Perez, who is the head of sustainability at Coca-Cola, stated that Coca-Cola will not ditch single-use plastic bottles because consumers still want them. People still want plastic bottles. That is what she said. Now, Coca-Cola has been named the worst plastic polluter in the world for the second year in a row. Together with a couple of other companies like PepsiCo and Nestlé, they are responsible for most of the ocean plastics. And plastic has the nasty feature of not going away unless it's been incinerated. Or it turns into microplastics and enters our food chain that way. And plastic does not get recycled. It doesn't. It's a whopping 91% of plastic that is not recycled. Coca-Cola alone produces about 3 million tons of plastic packaging a year, which is equivalent to 200,000 bottles a minute. And last year, it was found to be the most polluting brand in a global audit of plastic waste by the charity Break Free from Plastic. Apparently, Coke has pledged to use at least 50% recycled material in its packaging by 2030. It is also partnering with NGOs around the world to help improve collection. That's what Coke says. But the thing is, will anybody remember by 2030? That's still 10 years from now. And very much like it was the case with the tobacco industry a while ago, Coke and Pepsi are getting sued for lying about recycling. This is what is perverted about this. The profits are private, but the disastrous consequences are for the rest of us. And they are lying about how much of their plastic gets recycled. So why would a sincere company run by honest people do a thing like that? Unless they were a competition-driven company that ruthlessly puts profit over everyone and everything else. So what they do is at the expense of everyone and everything. You're all familiar with Alpro. They make plant-based food. They signed up for One Planet Thinking, and they are a certified B Corporation. And this is their pledge. By 2025, we aim at sourcing all plastics in our cartons from renewable, sustainable grown sources like sugarcane. There is a couple of remarkable differences with Coca-Cola. They say 2025, not 2030. And they talk about all plastics, not 50%. And they're making every carton even more plant-based, further reducing CO2 emissions. So it's definitely possible to do better than Coke does. Talking about corporate social responsibility, well, Coke doesn't stand for much. And then there's still worse with these inglorious bastards. The fossil fuel extracting companies. This is what these companies are spending on climate lobbying. And climate lobbying means spending money to delay, control, or block policies to tackle climate change. These are huge amounts of money spent over the course of 1 year. So you can imagine what the profits must be like. And this is what they spend on climate branding. And climate branding means focused branding activities which suggest they support action against climate change. The most common tactics employed are drawing attention to low carbon, positioning the company as a climate expert, and acknowledging climate concern while ignoring solutions. The report, according to Influence Map, said that the campaigns are misleading the public, given that the companies listed continue to expand their oil and gas extraction activities with only 3% of spending directed to low carbon projects. And the worst thing is that they are preparing a second wave of plastics. They are facing the prospect of reduced demand of their fuels. They are ramping up their plastics output. Apparently, nobody is stopping them, probably because they are sponsoring campaigns and things like that. So, again, why would a sincere company run by honest people do a thing like that? Unless they were a competition-driven company that ruthlessly puts profit over everyone and everything else. Luckily, there's also companies that do want to make a profit but also want to matter. Companies that are playing an infinite game. Take The Guardian, for instance.
Why the struggle, why the strain? Why make trouble, why make scenes? Why go against the grain? Why swim upstream? It ain't no use. You're bound to lose. What's done is done. That's the way the river runs. So why get wet? Why break the sweat? Why waste your precious breath? Nothing changes, nothing changes, nothing.
It refuses to accept ads from fossil fuels extracting firms, which is a bold move, as it will definitely cost them loads of money. And then there's the world's biggest investor, BlackRock, which has admittedly made a U-turn and is now no longer investing in polluting companies. No more polluting companies. And on another level, there is Music Declares Emergency. Music Declares Emergency is a group of artists, music industry professionals and organizations that stand together to declare a climate and ecological emergency and call for an immediate governmental response to protect all life on Earth. They believe in the power of music to promote the cultural change needed to create a better future, for the simple reason that there can be no music on a dead planet. Reverb is an American non-profit which works to reduce the environmental impact of tours. They partner with musicians, festivals and venues to green their concert events while engaging fans face-to-face at shows to take environmental and social action. 18-year-old superstar Billie Eilish is greening her upcoming Where Do We Go world tour, making it more environmentally friendly. She's one of a growing number of musicians who are making their tours more sustainable.
Got to bring me on tour with you.
I do.
Talk about the new world tour. Can you believe you're going on a world tour, Billie Eilish? 17 years old. That's what I'm talking about.
I'm so
That's
excited.
how you do it. But you're doing something different and cool with this tour. Talk about the green part of this tour.
Yes. Well, basically, we just announced today as you just said, it's the Where Do We Go World Tour.
The Where Do We Go World Tour.
Where Do We Go World Tour. And basically, we're trying to be as green as possible on the entire tour. So there's we're actually bringing someone from Reverb, this company that basically specializes. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Okay. That.
I mean, Reverb or specializes?
Specializes.
Specializes. Reverb, I'd be like, oh, is that what? Yeah, but Reverb.
Specializes in like the best and most like healthy and green ways to do everything. So there's no plastic straws allowed. The fans are going to bring their own water bottles. There's going to be like recycle cans everywhere, because it's like if something's recyclable, it doesn't matter unless there's a recycle bin. You know, it doesn't do anything unless there is one.
You know, just recycle trash everywhere.
Yeah.
You're actually going to recycle everything.
Yeah,
I love that you're
plant-based
doing
food,
this.
everything. Yeah,
You're doing so many great things. I love it.
At each stop on the North American leg of his tour, singer Harry Styles collaborated with Reverb to include an action village that spotlighted local non-profit organizations and educated fans on sustainability. And although I like to work with Apple computers, I'm also very much a Microsoft fan. This is why. Microsoft not only announced they will be carbon negative by 2030, Microsoft also plans to offset all the emissions it produced since 1975. Bill Gates, who's a super cool guy, just invested in lab-grown palm oil to save the rainforest. Besides Unilever, there are still other companies working towards 100% renewable energy, like IKEA and Apple, for instance. I don't know if you're aware, but 1.5 billion phone cases are thrown away each year. That's a lot of plastic waste, and that's a problem Pila wants to solve. Pila is also a certified B Corporation, and it gives away 1% of its profits for the planet. Pila case even helps solving problems caused by the competition. It can take up to 1,000 years for plastic to break down, but that doesn't mean it's gone forever. Plastic breaks down into microplastics that end up floating in the ocean. Pila makes phone cases that are not only protecting your phone in the best possible way, the cases are compostable. You can throw them in your garden if it's no longer of use, and it will naturally disappear. You can even send them back, the plastic cases you bought from other companies, and they will recycle it. That is the very definition of a great company. It helps to solve problems caused by others. There is a lesson for you there, Coca-Cola. Elvis & Kresse is a luxury brand. They make bags from decommissioned fire hoses that would otherwise end up in landfills. Or they make rugs made from scraps of leather that are usually thrown away as well. Elvis & Kresse rescues. Since 2005, Elvis & Kresse have been on a rescue mission. Their first goal was to save London's decommissioned fire hoses. This was just the beginning. They transform. They create stunning lifestyle accessories by re-engineering seemingly useless wastes and combining them with traditional craftsmanship. They also donate. They love to share. It makes the world a better place. This is why 50% of profits from their fire hose range is donated to the firefighters charity. Elvis & Kresse is one of those companies that don't need advertising because they own their narrative. So, the future of marketing won't be about marketing. The future of marketing will be about whether you own your narrative or not. And if you own your narrative, that will unleash the power of affinity, which means that the people for whom you develop your product or service will easily align with your brand. If your narrative sucks, it won't be saved by marketing, because with your marketing, you will hit a wall which is called the limitation of our attention. Today, people increasingly hate advertising. So your future in marketing depends on the choice you are about to make. Are you going to be obsessed with telling the right story, or will you make sure you're telling the real story. The tactics are easy enough to learn. They are the least of your problems. First, answer the key question. Are you about winning or are you about mattering? Will you be joining a competition-driven or a story-driven company? I, for one, wish somebody had asked me that question when I was about to graduate. And remember, if you do the right thing, the money will follow. Now you know your options, which means now you have a responsibility. I very much hope you take it. Because people don't deserve sales and marketing. People deserve better.